Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, February 13th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, as is usually the case, we have a number of feast days today and some very interesting stories we have of Our Lady's intervention. So, some sources, I think this is the Abbot Orsini, give today as the celebration of Our Lady of Clairvaux in France. That's because it's the first apparition of Our Lady to Estelle Feguet, but her feast is actually February 19th. So we'll talk about this particular devotion on that day. Going down to Spain, they celebrate Nuestra Señora del Carmen in Rute, Córdoba, Andalucía, Spain. Right? So Nuestra Señora del Carmen, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So you might think, well, why do they celebrate that in February? Well, it was by the order of Pope Pius XI that Our Lady of Mount Carmel was proclaimed patroness of the town of Rute in southern Spain on February 13th, 1924, right? So they celebrate today because it's the day she was made the patroness by Pius XI. Her image goes back to the late 1600s when Luisa Roldan of Seville carved the head and the hands, right? So this is also something interesting. The image is made to be dressed, so that's why it doesn't have a proper body. Right, sometimes you see this, right? If it's dressed, then it doesn't really matter what the body looks like. So it's hands and head, right? So the city of Rute honors its patroness several times during the year, and particularly this one, right? This is the anniversary celebration, which has a number of things, but also they celebrate the liturgical feast of July 16th, and they also celebrated yet another Triduum on the Feast of the Assumption, which is August 14th through 16th. Now, heading around to the other side of the globe, like almost the complete opposite side, we have La Virgen de la Corodilla in Corodilla, Luján de Cuyo, Mendoza, Argentina. She is the patroness of vintners, of winemakers. This statue was crowned on February 13th, 1938, and she is known to make tours of the wineries in late February before the provincial wine festival. There you go, Virgen de la Corodilla. Likewise, going to South and Central America, we have Nuestra Señora del Rosario de Fátima in Estanzuelas, Usulután in El Salvador, right? This is, the town's patronal feast, which includes a night procession, which takes place the night of February 12th, and then Mass on February 13th, right? Now we're going to jump over to our usual spot, which is in Italy, and we have 4 different feasts in Italy. There is the celebration of Madonna della Libertà, Our Lady of Freedom, in Bologna, Emilia-Romagna, Italy. She is the patroness of the Bakers Association. And today we recall that her painting was crowned in 1966. The image is found in the Basilica of St. Anthony. Also interesting is the celebration of Madonna del Apollinare in Rome, Italy. They celebrate the fact that today, in 1647, the fresco, which was hidden before, was found intact, right? If you're familiar with this one, since 1990, this church has been the seat of the chapel for the Pontifical University of the Santa Croce, of the University of the Holy Cross. That's the one run by the Opus Dei community. So what's the story here? Well, there used to be an image venerated, a Marian image venerated in this church, right? It's a fresco which represents Our Lady between the apostles Peter and Paul, right? Which is probably from the 15th century, which means the 1400s, right? So what happened? Well, in December of 1494, they covered the image, right, with like some sort of cloth, because Carlo VIII, so Charles VIII, don't ask me from which country, his soldiers were coming through the town, and then there were, sort of local wars and things like that. So they decided just to cover up the image, because these soldiers would usually stay at the portico, right, where the image was. The problem is that they forgot about the image, right? So we're talking 1494. All of a sudden, an earthquake broke down the covering that had protected this image on February 13th, 1647. So they had lost it for almost 150 years, right? So, but what's beautiful is that after the covering fell, the fresco reappeared, and it was intact, right? And for this reason, they really had a strong devotion to the image, so much so that just a few years later, in 1653, the image was solemnly crowned, right? Also in Italy, we have Beata Vergine Assunta, so that's the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin, in Guasila, Cagliari, in Sardinia, Italy, and so that's in Sardinia, the island. This church was consecrated in 1903. Obviously, she celebrates her feast on August 15th. And then also the Madonna della Sfida in Barletta, Bari, Apulia, Italy, right? Which they translate into English as Our Lady of the Joust, but it's also Our Lady of the Challenge. And it's because the Italian knights defeated French knights in a joust in 1503. Well, what better reason to celebrate beating the French in a joust? So that's what we're celebrating today, February 13th, in the Marian world. For today's Marian Meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue with meditation. I gotta look at the number here real quick. Meditation 37, again on the Magnificat. And today we'll consider the words, "He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty-handed." Furthermore, Our Lady seems to find endless praise for humility. These words are just, being indeed a repetition of the previous ones. Here she speaks about another manifestation of humility, namely poverty, and of another shape of pride, namely abundance and comfort. There is actual and real poverty, and there is poverty of spirit. Jesus wanted to be born, to live, and to die embracing poverty. If we knew how much Jesus loves it, then we would certainly appreciate it a little more. However, we must at least look for it, and desire poverty of spirit, that is, to be attached from all, never to covet or envy, nor desire the comfort of riches, to rejoice when something is wanting to us, and when things are not going fully according to our plans. Finally, by being anxious to be detached of all, we should also be detached from ourselves. A detached heart, shorn of everything that is not God, is so very pleasing to Him. God wants us to be detached of ourselves in order to be filled with God. When you pour plaster into a mold, you make sure that the mold is perfectly clean and free from all foreign substances, so that it may receive all the details of the original. In like manner, Mary and Jesus want to shape your heart so as to make it a faithful copy of their own. Consequently, they want you to admit no foreign elements. You must therefore keep your heart clean. Keep it detached. You must be ready to root out, no matter how painfully, all that is not of Jesus and Mary. Think of this, especially at the moment of Holy Communion, and do not forget that there is no place for Jesus and self at the same time. If you want Him to come in, self-love must go. This is the hunger to which Mary refers in the Magnificat, when she sings that He has filled the hungry with good things. Approach Jesus with true hunger, and you too will see that these words were fulfilled. And do not forget that the rich, the satisfied and self-sufficient, are left with nothing what is theirs. And since what is theirs is nothingness, they are sent away empty-handed. For today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we continue with our chapter speaking of the mercy of God mirrored in Mary's admirable heart. So in the first section yesterday, we talked about how God's mercy is revealed in a particular way through the Incarnation, the establishment of the Church, and in Mary, Jesus' mother. All this, namely the numerous episodes and mysteries of the God-man, His thoughts concerning our salvation, the words He spoke in preparation for this great mission, the thanksgiving He offered, the sufferings He endured, every drop of blood He shed, the sacrifice He offered and continues to offer daily and hourly in His church, all the sacraments established by Him, all the enlightenment and sanctification that He accomplished in human souls under the old as well as under the new law, by virtue of His mysteries, sacrifices, and sacraments, and whatever other graces communicated to men, all this, I repeat, emanated from the manifold operations of this divine attribute of mercy. Beyond this, God not only willed to become man, that men might become partakers of the divine nature, but He willed that His only Son should become the Son of Man, that men might become the sons of God. God willed that His Son come into this world by being born of the seed of Adam and of a daughter of Adam, that we might have the God-man for our brother and the mother of God for our mother. Thus we have the same father and the same mother as the Son of God Himself. We are His brothers, and as He is our mediator with His Father, so His heavenly mother is a mediatrix between Himself and us. In order to render His admirable mother paramountly able to exercise her double office of mother and mediatrix,
so that she might protect, favor, and assist us with greater efficacy in all our needs. Divine mercy constituted her, first of all, most agreeable and holy. Secondly, mercy gave her dominion over everything in heaven and on earth. Thirdly, it gave her the mildest, sweetest, and most loving heart, save that of the God-man. To the heart of Mary, God communicated in greater abundance his merciful inclinations, and established in it the throne and reign of his mercy more gloriously than in the heart of any other creature, save the sacred humanity of Christ. Divine mercy reigns so perfectly in Mary's heart that she bears the name of Queen and Mother of Mercy. And this most loving Mary has so completely won the heart of God's mercy that he has given her the key to all his treasures and made her the absolute mistress of them. Saint Bernard says, "She is called the Queen of Mercy because she opens the abyss and treasure of divine mercy to whom she chooses, when she chooses, and as she chooses." Divine mercy holds such complete sway over Mary's heart and fills it with so much compassion for sinners and all people in need that St. Augustine addresses her thus: "You are the sinner's only hope after God." "My dear children," says St. Bernard, "her heart is the ladder by which sinners go up to heaven. This is my reliance. This is the only reason of my hope." Euthemius, one of the ancient fathers who lived over 7 centuries ago, adds, "O most merciful Virgin, deign to cast your pitiful eyes on your poor servants. For, after God, we have placed all our hope in you, who are our life, our glory, and as it were, our substance and our being."
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.